Oh no, what's happened here? It's a V6 and it's got a new motor. Well, got to be honest here, it looks like the V6s are just as bad or worse than the diesels. People go on about the diesels, this and that. Well, actually, hang on, let's all just calm down a minute so you can avoid new motors. You know, we can do a new motor for if you like, but let's try and avoid it. Let's do the maintenance. Let's understand the problems. Now, when I say the V6 is worse than the diesel, well, we don't see a lot of V6s, but I'll tell you what, the amount of problems we're hearing of and seeing in comparison to the diesels, it would seem they are worse, but totally different reasons why they have issues, and they are awesome engines, but you've just got to understand what the problems are. And this one is not the blocked oil pickup, what happened to the last one, if you like. There's been a few checking oil pickups, there's been a few blocked oil pickups, and there's been some other issues as well. But the diesel is the majority of the market, you know. It's something like, you know, I don't know, the sales or what's on the road, at least, you know, the diesel outnumbers the petrol by at least 10 times. So, of course, that's why we see a lot more diesels. People are saving the fuel, they can still afford to do the maintenance. We've got to throw a bit of a joke in there. Maybe it's a joke, maybe it's not. But this is an old 03 120 with the V6. It's got the 4-speed auto. It's done 280,000 Ks now, and it's got a new engine, or not a new, it's got a rebuilt engine in it, and there's a few reasons. If you have a look at it, you'll be able to work out that it's rebuilt, but it's rebuilt. It doesn't have any oil leaks yet, so that's a good sign. We're going to have a bit of a look around, but the point is we want to avoid this, and we want people to understand what the problems could be with the V6 as well. It's got a new radiator. So what we're going to do on this vehicle is spend a few minutes and do a quick bumper-to-bumper inspection, have a chat about a few things. It will be really informative and a real eye-opener for what you need to have a look at as far as maintenance goes on your vehicle, because let's just say this is a bit typical. This is a 20-year-old 120 Prado. It's done 280,000 Ks. There's going to be a lot of people that have done about that many Ks. There's going to be some that have done less, some that have done more, but there's going to be a lot that have done this sort of kilometres, all right? So let's just run through everything. So it's got a new engine. It's been in there 1,000 Ks. We've just done the oil and filter change at 1,000 Ks, and we're going to do a bit of a checkup, whatever. You can see the oil leaks down from that oil filter up there sometimes. And it's about to get a good clean up underneath because A, they've asked for that, and B, we did brake fluid changes, we did diff oil changes, we've done a number of things on this vehicle. So let's just have a look. Firstly, some of the best things I can see are the tyres, because guess what? They're in really good condition and they get really good fuel economy. It's got the OME suspension. No idea how old it is. This is a bit of an old traditional, what people used to use. Bushes look pretty good. Overall, it's fairly good suspension, but it is fairly basic. Looks like it's had some drive shafts replaced at some point, because that is no longer that strong poly out of boot. This side, same. So it's had drive shafts at some stage. So that's maintenance been done. You know, we normally look at these lower control arms, the bushes. They've certainly been done, bushes or arms. I can see some nice solid bushes. That's excellent. So we can see they've spent some money and done that. They're certainly in really good condition. Nothing to see there. They're poly. I'd love to know, actually, if you can, if you watch the video, the owner, and you don't mind showing yourself, let us know what brand these bushes are, so people know what arms, what bushes you put in there, what the value of them was. And of course, if you replace the arm, you get this lower ball joint with it as well. So, bit of a sweat on the tie rod ends, not to worry about that. You're going to see a bit of a sweat on the upper ball joints up there, not to worry about that. Suspension looks all right at the moment, but change it about every 80,000 Ks on road is what the actual manufacturer of this Old Man Emu from ARB, that's made by Monroe or Tenneco in South Australia. Well, it was last time I checked. They recommend every 80,000 Ks. Off-road, you get a lot more punishment. Probably should be done sooner, but we know it's not going to happen. But just beware of the recommendations. They wear and tear slowly, and you don't notice it's not performing. Bit of a sweat on the rack boot, the usual. Not to worry, just keep an eye on your power steering oil level, right? You'll see a little bit of that at each side. New engine looks good. Diff oil, we've just changed, cleaned it up. It'll get more of a cleanup. So at the front end at the moment, without touching anything, checking for play, it's actually looking pretty good. That bit of a sweat on the bottom link pin. This is the sway bar here, right? So the pins at the end, they're called the link pins. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I've never changed them. Genuine is going to be best. People have changed to aftermarket link pins and had problems. Nuts and bolts come loose and whatever. The new radiator, that's awesome. It's good that the radiator's in there, and that is the cause of the problem with this engine in the first place. I'll get to that. I just want to finish this inspection, and then we'll get to what's happened with this one. So 4-speed auto. Pan may have never been off it, that's fine. We're going to do a transmission flush also as well. That's something else we're about to do. So there's your drain plug. On this one, you've got the dipstick to set the level. Don't get it wrong with the wrong oil, and don't set the oil level wrong because it causes problems with transmissions. Just having a peek up there, it's got the starter motor original. I mean, you know, it hasn't been changed. You know, sometimes they put in new this, that, and the other just because they're doing engine new everything. But just having a look around, as you would. Bit of brake fluid sitting there from the brake fluid flush. Brake pads, yeah, at least they've got a bit left. You know, they're getting a bit low, actually. I'd probably start looking on lsi.com.au for those $50, $60 rotors and $35 pads. I'm about to put a set of those in the Hilux to give them a try, and we'll let you know how they go. And we're also going to put a set of, so that's been, at some stage, somebody has, sorry, just trying to get it focused. I've mucked it up because I've touched the camera in the wrong spot. Hang on a minute, here we go. All right, so that brake line, somebody's taken the calipers off at some point and bent that brake line, so just be careful, be aware of that. Looks like just a bit of grease on it. The boot on the bottom of the link pin's a bit split, so they could call a roadworthy on it. But you know what? That'll be all right for a bit longer. But if it has been knocked and damaged by someone, you got to keep an eye on the vehicle after you let people work on it, unfortunately, because that's what they do, don't they? Lube the driveline, of course, has had plenty of that over the years. 280,000 Ks if I didn't mention it yet. We've just done the transfer case, so this will all get a bit of a wash up now. We can't just wash this off all this years of grease. It's going to take a lot of time and elbow grease to do that. So that's a whole separate job. We can do under vehicle cleaning, but it does get expensive. The longer you spend, the cleaner it gets. And of course, the more money it costs. Because as you can imagine, we can do it on the hoist here in the workshop. But can you imagine all the cleaning and prevention of extra wear and tear on the hoist from all the water and degreaser and stuff getting in there? We've just changed the fuel hose. That was a drama as well because we thought the fuel tank was about half full, but fuel started pouring out as soon as it came off. So that got a bit messy and stinky, as you can imagine. So just be aware of that. If you're going to ask us to change your fuel filler hose, it goes into the back of the fuel tank. The fuel level, you need to have the 90-litre light on, and it needs to be below 3/4, okay? So we're going to trust that everybody takes care of that if they come into the Prado Hospital or any other repairer. And if you don't know, these hoses are brittle. They only need to be changed once. They get old, they go hard on the petrol, they crack, they leak everywhere. Look at these upper bushes, actually. Look at that. So they've got the poly in there. So they've spent some money on this thing. It's a Grande. You know, a lot of the Grandes are V6s as well, right? Diff oil we've just done. Rear pads. Rear pads have got a fair bit left, you know, so relax on those. Just check out either the LSI pads or genuine pads for the front. Depends if you got any pulsation and you want to replace the rotors as well. You don't have to replace the rotors. I'm just letting you know the cheap option because they're only about 50 to 60 bucks each rotor, and then you've got that discount code on lsi.com.au of what is it? 4B4. You have to check on our Facebook groups and pages, but it's 4B4 or something 2023. But it's on our Prado Hospital Facebook page. It's on post. It's in videos. I've shown it a number of times, so I'm not going to do it now. The old man emu shockers at the rear, they look all right too. So overall, for a 20-year-old vehicle, this looks pretty good. And see how clean the diff is? That's from all the fuel, right? I mean, it was just pouring out. I've got to tell you, it was just pouring out, you know? I mean, look at it. Everything's had a really good clean around here from the fuel, from that fuel hose there, right? So it's about to get another massive big wash up. You can see that wiring loom clip right at the top there is not clipped in. So we'll have a look at clipping that in. So what's happened here, it's a Grande. They would have got rid of the Grande gear by the looks of it. So the compressor's in here still. And they've put the OME, there's an OME spring, obviously. Have they just put the wrong, oh yeah. They've just chucked the spring in. Is that smaller at the bottom? I can't even sort of tell if that's, yeah, I think they've just put the wrong spring in there with the wrong spring seat, yeah. Well, there you go, I think so anyway. Yeah, because that's not hanging around that tight, is it? Is that tight? I can't even see what I'm doing. I'll just put the camera in there, we'll check it out later. But there's a special spring. If you want to change from a Grande, it's actually wound a bit tighter at the bottom to make it suit. Maybe that is right. I don't know. It's hard to see, but I'm just going, at some point they've got rid of the airbags. And when it's been worked on, let me just put this light down. Try and sort this out right now while we're at it. It might not work because where this clips in, there's a hole up here where normally there's, let's try and sort it out right now and see if it probably won't work because it's hitting the spring. Yeah, the spring's behind there. So you can't, that's why that's sitting there like that. So you get that. It's all part of the fun. You do get that, right? Exhaust, of course, looks good as usual. Underbody, you know, in 20 years, that it's been used off-road. The tank hasn't been hit in 20 years, so that's good. Diff's good, brakes are good, suspension at the back's good, bushes are good. like we said, needs a good clean up. We've got to have a bit of a feel around for, you know, other stuff, but, you know, play in the front wheel bearings, that sort of thing. Check all the drive shafts, uni joints and that sort of thing. But overall, it's looking pretty good. The maintenance being done. It's probably due for suspension again, I'd say pretty soon, because that does look, you know, it looks kind of old, you know. Update to some Dobinson's monotubes. It could certainly do with the bash plate. Like I said, it's been used off-road, so there's, yeah, it's not bad. It's a bash plate, you know. I mean, the other half's still off at the moment because we did the diff and just for the inspection purposes and having a look at the engine. We're going to have a look around if there's anything else they forgot, but seems they've done a reasonable job. Let's just do a quick mention on these toe points. They've got about 1 inch of welding times 4 because there's 2 sides and it's welded both sides. Plus there's these. So you got about 10 tonne of strength there. So that's enough to rip the whole front off the vehicle if you pull it hard enough. So just use common sense, use your brains if you're going to tow a vehicle or do any sort of recovery. But bolting something on, that'll rip the chassis off maybe, or the bolts will break and they'll bend and that sort of thing. These things, never seen any come off a vehicle. There's no evidence of that anywhere on the internet across the whole wide world. But as they get older and rust and stuff like that, just have a good close look at them because you never know, right? I don't know, you know, they could deteriorate. So keep an eye on those sorts of things as well. So new radiator, there's a reason for that. Let's drop it down and have a look under the engine bay and let you know exactly what went wrong with this V6 and be a bada bing after that. I've got another question for everyone. This is something I've got no idea about. Never seen it before. Now, the customer said someone put it, it's been on there for 10 years, right? There's that and there's these things. Now, I've heard about some contraptions that are supposed to save fuel and whatever. I don't know if this is one of them. I don't know if this is just a bit of rubbish. I don't know what the con job is, but apparently it's been on there for 10 years. It's not something that's been bolted on to block a hole or something like that. I really don't know what it is or how it works or what it's called. So all those petrol gurus out there or with this contraption gurus, can you tell me what it's called and what's it supposed to do? So that's obviously on the air intake. And over here we've got 2 red ones on the fuel. Right? So I really don't know. Well, I certainly wouldn't be doing it. I don't like clamping aftermarket crap banging around. It's on the fuel lines. One day that'll probably split, even though you can see it says EPDM, right? The good stuff, but I don't know. Look, whatever. So we're going to change the fuel filter. This engine, I'll tell you what, I've been told by the client, the reason the engine failed is because of the old brittle radiator. This snapped off here. So this is my point, right? That doesn't happen on the diesels. If it's happened on this V6, it's going to happen on and have happened on other V6s. There's plenty of V6 failures. There's plenty of V6s that are getting rebuilt because the new engine, it's not like the 1KD where you can get it for about 10 grand, which is dear enough. It's about 20 grand or not available, right? So you need to get the later engine because they don't have them for the 120. You might be able to make it work or you need to get a rebuild. Now, you know, it's not a good situation wasting an engine and 10, 20 grand, wasting engines, rebuilds, whatever. Just get the new motor, even better, just avoid it, right? So let us know in the comments if you know what this crap is. I'm going to call it crap because I'm surely not. I mean, if there's something like that that worked, surely the manufacturer would do something and make it work for us and make it help the situation. But look, this rebuild looks pretty good. The engine looks clean. I didn't see any oil leaks on it, did you? No, looks good. That's what a good looking, not that old, kind of down the hole looks like. All right. Anyway, let's get this cover back on. That's why it happens. So beware of your radiators getting old and brittle. In a lot of vehicles, doesn't happen on the 1KDs. People sometimes bump the, you know, the bleeder thing up the top wherever on the highlight, but that's not it getting brittle. It might look brittle. That's, you know, that's because, you know, you got it over here on the top of the 120 or the 150, and you bring your big heavy battery in, and it's gripped on the rubber and it snapped it, or you've leant on it and it looks brittle when it's broken. I've got them not broken. I've got my old 120 here, and I regularly have a little wobble yank on that, and it doesn't break. So don't tell me that that's what's happened. It's only done 420,000 k's, by the way, somewhere up there anyway, in the 400 range. I could be wrong. But beware of it, you know, beware coolant, right? Coolant on the next vehicle we're going to work on. It looks like really weak cordial, so it's getting a coolant flush. The coolant is protecting your engine, the head gaskets, the Welsh plugs, your heater core, your radiator. I mean, you know, everything. This is an all-alloy engine. If it gets corrosion in there, you can permanently get leaks and right off the block, okay? So not good. Anyway, we're going to wrap this one up. That's what caused it with this one. So beware of the radiator thing. You might want to invest in a radiator before you've got to invest in an engine. Keep it reliable, save your money, subscribe, turn the bell on so you can do these vehicle inspections, check things out. This is actually a good one. I don't know why they put this on backwards again. Let's see if I can get, what have they done, right? Oh my, it's still full of dirt. Anyway, look at that. Right, man, what, nobody cleaned that out? 1,000K since the rebuild, and what, they haven't even had that. Anyway, right, so what you do now is you need to work out which way's clockwise. I'm not really that good at that when things are upside down. So anyway, this is the way that it goes. It faces down that way, not pointing out this way, right? And then that should maybe, it's a one-way thing drain anyway. Well, that'll get washed out. Look at the amount of crap in there, right? Now, I'll tell you a bit more. We're going to go off topic now. That's what the pre-spinner does. That's what this does. That's why you leave it there, okay? Same on a 1KD. If you block this up, then it's just going to fill up like that, right? When you open the bonnet, when you service the vehicle, just give these a bit of a squeeze, let all the dirt fall out every now and then. And look at it. It's up here, it's down there. There's stacks of it. And that pre-spinner is going to put it there instead of in your air filter, okay? So that's a good thing. You want to keep it there. Otherwise, if that's not there, it keeps going straight that way and blocks up your air filter sooner, right? Genuine filters, of course. Let's talk about that for a minute. Because aftermarket uses the Z418, which is the same on the 1KD and the 1GR, but genuine uses the D2 on the diesel and the D4 on the V6 as the proper listing. But obviously, given that aftermarket uses the same, we know it's the same filter, the same filtration, the same size. It's just the D4 is a bit taller. So it's up to you whether you want to use these or those. I think the D4s might be a little bit dearer. It depends where you're buying from. Again, that lsi.com.au, and there's a discount code. Just stay on our videos, keep watching videos. We've got a number of suppliers that are prepared to help out. They've already got good value for money. That's why we buy from them. They've got good customer service. They're really quick sending stuff out. So we've contacted them and said, hey, how about it? We've got all these people that are going to listen. You're just going to love the sales, but we're trying to help them save money and get good customer service. As long as you keep it that way, we want to share the information, help people out. So lsi.com.au, and there is a discount code where you get another 5% off. You just got to look around our Facebook pages and groups and all that. This video has got a bit longer than I planned. So just to wrap it up, I want to say, look, I'm not picking on the V6 or the diesel. They've both got problems if people don't do the right maintenance. And the right maintenance is understanding what the engines actually require to avoid problems, you know? Not going, oh, I'm glad I got the V6, or I'm glad I got the diesel, or mine gets better economy. Look how much fuel yours uses, right? They're both good engines, and one's suited to someone better than the other, if you know what I mean. So choose whatever suits you, but understand, lack of oil changes on a V6, blocked oil pickups, brittle radiators from all the heat. A lot of things go more brittle on the V6, more heat. It's a big revving engine, right? So the diesel generates more heat inside, but it doesn't seem to get out to the same temperatures to damage the plastic of the radiator, you know, like what the V6 can, you know. So knock them around a bit, knock the hose around, see if it breaks off. If it breaks off, make sure don't do it when you don't want, do it when you're ready for it to break, or just buy yourself a radiator, you know, a new radiator, you know, a few $100, get something decent. You might not want to get a genuine. Check the genuine price. You can get good brands like Koyo, whatever. Probably just replace it. It's a good idea. Anyway, I think that's about it. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for bada binging, and there's a bada boom. Catch ya.